Okay, we're reading Chapter 12 of The Power of One. I'm on page 267. While Gil Pete was growing rich, he had also become indispensable to the boxing squad, a demanding and resourceful coach. The squad kids had been turned into clever boxers, natural aggression combined with real skill. The Barberton Blues hadn't lost a fight in 2 years. How I got my first real fight was a matter of sheer luck. The championships in Nelsprout were in August, only days before my 10th birthday. I had tried to persuade anyone who would listen that 10 was almost 11, and 1 year wasn't much to forfeit. But Lieutenant Smith wasn't the sort of man who changed his mind. The two under-12s were Snot-Nosed Bronkhurst and Fonny Kruger, both 2 years my senior and much bigger. Gil Pete claimed he saw intelligence and speed in me that more than made up for my lack of size. He was a fanatic about footwork. You must learn to box with your feet, small boss. A good boxer is like a dancer. He is still pretty to watch even if you look only at his feet. He taught me how to position myself so the full weight of my body was thrown behind a punch. If they do not respect your punch, they may simply keep going until they knock you down, man. A boxer must have respect. I longed to have a real fight against an unknown opponent. In 2 years, I had never missed a day of boxing, and I had worked with all my heart and soul for the moment when I could climb into a boxing ring with an opponent whose every blow, unlike those of my sparring partners, could not be anticipated. On the Monday of the week of the championship, Snot-Nose didn't turn up at the gym. After the session, Lieutenant Smith and Gil Pete talked earnestly for quite a time, every so often looking in my direction. Finally, Gil Pete came over to me. Man, I'm a happy man today, small boss. You got your first fight, man. Bronkhurst, he is sick. You got his place. I couldn't believe my ears. Snot-Nose had jaundice, which had been going around school. I went to hug Gil Pete, but he quickly sidestepped. No, small boss. The lieutenant will come over and beat me. He grinned. Better go over quick, man, and thank him. I ran over to where Lieutenant Smith was talking to Clipcop. Thank you for the fight, Lieutenant Smith, I stammered. I will try my hardest. That won't be enough, he said in a brisk voice. You're going to get your head knocked in, but it will do you good. Nobody should win their first fight. Gil Pete told me to bring my tackies in the next morning so they could be properly cleaned for me to wear at the fight. Using a piece of string, he measured my chest and waist. When I got home from school, I told Dee and Dum my tackies should be put next to my satchel so I wouldn't forget them, as Gil Pete needed to clean them. Dum got up quietly from the floor. She returned a few moments later with my tackies. They were spotless. Who does this yellow man think he is? She asked. Does he think we let our boss go around in dirty things? I had to explain that Gil Pete did all the things for the boxers. He will not wash your clothes or clean your tackies, Dee said. It is a woman's work, and we will look after the clothes of him who belongs to our own kraal, Dum added. I wasn't at all sure how my mother would take the news of my inclusion in the squad. Boxing was never mentioned, and as far as she was concerned, my early morning journey to the jail was in order to take piano lessons. She had been very busy lately with a commission to make 3 ball gowns. I knocked and entered the sewing room. It seemed full of a plum-colored taffeta gown that was almost finished. My mother rose and held it against her body, and she looked just how I imagined Cinderella must have looked when she went to the ball. The skirt billowed from the narrow waist, and as she moved, the taffeta caught the light and rustled. Such an extravagance. I can't imagine where they found the material in the middle of the war. She kicked the skirt to reveal a second layer of net in peacock blue. You look beautiful, I said, not thinking to flatter her. My mother laughed. That's the trouble with the things of the devil. They are often tempting and very pretty, she said with a sigh. I had forgotten for a moment that dances were high on the Lord's banned list. My heart sank. If dancing was frowned upon by the Lord, what would he think of a boxing match? I immediately consoled myself with the knowledge that God was a man, and therefore he'd like boxing a lot better than dancing. You've come about the boxing, haven't you? My mother said. Yes, Mother. I was unable to conceal the surprise in my voice. Lieutenant Smith, a very nice man, came to see me this morning, though I'm not sure he liked what I liked what he had to say. I've spoken to your grandfather, and I made it the subject of my quiet time with the Lord after lunch. He gave me no clear guidance on the matter, though your grandfather seems to think it can't do you any harm. Her head jerked back in a sudden gesture of annoyance. Oh, how I wish you'd stick to the piano. It's clearly the Lord's wish that you do so, or he wouldn't have made it possible for you to learn under such trying circumstances. Lieutenant Smith seems to think you have a natural talent as a boxer, which is more than the professor has admitted about your music. Doc has said my Chopin is coming along extra good, I said. My mother sighed. You'll have to sleep on Friday afternoon if you're going to be up that late on Saturday night." I jumped with joy. Thank you, I cried, and gave her a hug and a kiss. On Friday morning, Lieutenant Smith called us all together around the ring. "I want to tell you first a few things," he said. He turned to the 5 kids standing to one side with Gil Pete. "The rules for under 15 say, you get knocked down, you out. No use getting up, man. You finished. So don't get knocked down, hey?" He indicated Klipkop, who was standing on his right. "Sergeant Udendahl is a semi-pro, so he's not allowed to fight. So Gert will fight in the heavyweight division, and Sergeant Udendahl and me will be your seconds. You all know the rules. The most clean blows landed wins. That's how Gil Pete here taught you." He was turning to leave the ring when his eye caught something at his feet. He stopped and picked up a small blue singlet, on the front of which, in yellow, were the letters BB, standing for Barberton Blues. He turned the singlet around to face us. On the back, in neat cut-out letters, we saw PK. "Welcome, PK," he said, and everyone clapped. "Welcome to the Barberton Blues." My throat ached as I choked back the tears. Lieutenant Smith bent down again and picked up a pair of blue shorts with a yellow stripe down the side, and bundling shorts and singlet together, he threw them at me. I showed Doc my singlet and shorts, and he seemed very pleased for me, and I told him about the 3 rounds. "Do you think you can go 3 rounds with Mr. Chopin, PK?" he asked. I nodded, determined to show Doc that his precious music was not taking a back seat. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Gil Pete enter the hall. It was unusual for him to come into the hall at this time. I always put the day's mail in the piano seat, and later, when he came to polish the Steinway, he would retrieve it. We had decided the 3 of us should never be seen together near the postbox. He stood, pretending to clean a window, and finally Doc noticed him. "You must not come when we practice," he admonished. The battered little man trotted toward us. "Please, boss, it is very important." Gil Pete withdrew a parcel wrapped in a piece of cloth. "In the bootmakers we have made for the small boss a present." He opened the cloth to reveal a pair of boxing boots. I gasped. They were beautiful, the black leather brought to a soft sheen, and the soles the bluish white of raw new leather. "It is from all the people, a present for the Onoshiboshi Inglosi, so that you will fight a mighty fight tomorrow, small boss. It is why I asked you for the tacky, small boss." He gave me a big, toothless smile. It was to know the size. I leapt from the piano stool and quickly pulled my school boots off and put the boxing boots on. The leather was soft and pliant, and the boots felt light as a feather and fitted perfectly. "Gil Pete, they are the nicest present anyone ever gave me. Honest. They are from all the people. It is their way to thank you." Without warning, he dropped to his knees, and using the cloth in which the boxing boots had been wrapped, he started to polish the floor around my feet. Some instinct in him that never rested had sensed danger. A good 5 seconds elapsed before the warder actually stood at the entrance to the hall. He was a new sergeant. His name was Borman, and he had been transferred to the Lowveld from Pretoria. He stood, one hand holding the door frame. "Professor, the commandant wants to see you. Report to administration after breakfast, do you hear?" He turned to them, then caught sight of Gil Pete. "Come here, Kafir," he rapped. The little man ran across the hall. "Ja, boss, I come, boss," he cried. "What you doing in this place?" the warder demanded. Doc bent down and picked up one of my school boots. "The boy got some caulk on his boots. He had come to clean them," he said, waving the boot at the warder and then pointing to where Gil Pete had been cleaning the floor. "Also, some was on the floor when he walked in." Sergeant Borman grinned. "Next time, make the black bastard lick it clean." He turned and walked away. Gil Pete came paddling over to us, his bare feet making hardly any sound. "Thank you, big boss," he said with a grin. He turned to me. "Box with your feet, small boss. Punch clean, so it is a scoring shot. No clinches. That way a bigger boxer can push you over. Good luck, small boss. The people are with you." "Thank you, Gil Pete. Tell the people I thank them." "Ah, man, it is nothing. The people love you. You are fighting for them." He was gone. Doc cleared his throat to break the silence. "Maybe now we can play Chopin, yes?" I gave him a big hug. "That sure was quick thinking, Doc." He chuckled. "Not so bad for a bronchic-down old piano player, Ja." He frowned suddenly. "I wonder what wants the commandant." We were to leave for Nelspruit, a distance of some 40 miles, at 8 the following morning. Though I avoided having to rest on Friday afternoon, I had been ordered to bed at 6 o'clock. I woke as usual just before dawn and lay in bed trying to imagine the day ahead. What if I was beaten first off? With 7 Eastern Transvaal teams competing, I had to win twice to get to the final. I had never boxed 6 rounds in my life. Even if I got through them, I would have to box another 3 in the finals. I quickly dressed and ran through the garden. In a little more than 10 minutes, I was on top of the hill, sitting on our rock. It was early spring and the dawn wind was cold. I shivered a little as I watched the light bleed into the valley and merged with the darkened town before me, smudging the darkness until the roofs and streets and trees were rubbed clean. Patches of bright red from spring-flowering flamboyant trees already dotted the town. I tried to think how Grandpa Chook would have looked at the situation. He would have taken things in stride, just like any other day. Grandpa Chook remained a sort of checkpoint in my life, a reference on how to behave in a tight spot. I thought of Hoppy, too. If only Hoppy could have been there to see me. First with your head and then with your heart, PK. I could almost hear his cheerful and reassuring voice. And now we are at the end of page 275.